Okay, welcome in. Welcome in. I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is class four. This is class four of Women in Leadership that I teach here every Sunday. This is class four, Mary, Mother of Jesus, surrendered by leadership and divine calling. That's what this course is going to be about. But I'm going to do a recap of class three. So, class three, we did Ruth. So, as I said, this is Women of the Bible Leadership Series, Lead Her Movement. So in class three, we studied Ruth and we learned that her destiny was built through ordinary obedience. What is ordinary obedience? Meaning that it was just her character. Sometimes leadership is not what we think it is, like holding the mic, leading a bunch of people, being a supervisor, being a manager. That's not what leadership is about sometimes. Sometimes it's about your character. And with Ruth, her character was just who she was, what she did. She chose, not decided, she chose to follow Naomi and be a part of Naomi's family. She chose these things. So in the choosing, it caused her what? For people to see that, oh, well, she's a good person. Look what she did. She didn't boast about it, but it was just her character. So her destiny is built through, leadership is sometimes just built through your ordinary obedience. But even in a season of loss and uncertainty, Ruth chose loyalty, humility, and faith. Okay. Through consistent, faithful decisions like staying with Naomi, that was one thing. Staying with Naomi and working in the fields, she positioned herself for a purpose. So the key takeaway for that is that leadership is not about recognition. It's not always about recognition, but about faithfulness in the small moments that lead to greater opportunities. So as I say, standing in power, leading with grace. Welcome in. We're going to get into class four, and that is Mary, the mother of Jesus. The mother of Jesus surrendered leadership and divine calling. Those were her traits, but we're going to dive into it a little bit. So the opening Psalms is Psalms 25:9, which is he guides the humble in what is right. So let's talk about it. So the primary scripture is Luke chapters 1 through 2, and then John 19 through 25. So let's get into the context of her role, Mary's role. So the context of her role is that she was chosen by the divine for divine purpose. She was a chosen vessel that God chose, and that she led through obedience, humility, and endurance, and she modeled leadership under misunderstanding and loss. Even when she didn't understand, even when she could have lost it all, she still modeled leadership because she told him basically, whatever you need of me, I'm going to serve. So, as I tell you guys, I do a lot of research. So, before I just break anything down, I always take it back to Hebrew because I wanted to know what it meant in Hebrew at that time. So, at that time, Mary's magnificent mirrors, right? Her magnificence mirrors Hannah's prayers. That's what it mirrors, aligning her leadership with prophetic tradition. So, her leadership is marked by submission, and it's called Hineni. Hineni, which means here I am. That's in Hebrew, Hineni, right? So let's get into the leadership skills she displayed. Now, I like to look at the pros and cons, or either the good and the warning of the leadership. So the good and the bad for us looking in. So the good of it is that she had radical obedience, right? Can you imagine? God came to you, Gabriel came to you, the angel came to you and said, hey, you're going to have baby Jesus. Okay. You know, me, God choosing me out of all people. What about sister such and such? What about sister such? What about you? No, you. So she had that radical obedience to say, okay, I'm going to serve. And emotional resilience. She didn't get in her feelings. She didn't let self take over. Mary didn't say, oh no, she already knew the outcome, but if God gave it to me, then he's going to protect me. That's what she stayed with. Like, no, she believed that and she stayed in faith. If this is what God got for me, this is what I'm going to stay with. I don't care. So if he told me I'm going to have the Jesus, then I'm going to have Jesus, right? And if, yes, I can be stoned, but you gave it to me, God, so that means that you're going to protect me. So she had the emotional resilience to be able to stay out of her emotions, taking it personal. She trusts without full clarity. They just told her she was going to have this baby. She was going to carry this baby. They didn't tell her what her life was going to be like. They didn't tell her if she was going to be rich and famous. They didn't tell her if she was going to be poor. They didn't tell her if she was going to be slain. They didn't tell her anything. She just had to trust with full clarity. And then she also had the ability to ponder and reflect before reacting. That's a key trait in leadership. That's the leadership that she displayed. But here's some that us looking at it, right? If she would have stepped in the physical, right, and just human form and just said, okay, I'm gonna think, I'm not even gonna think spiritually, I'm gonna think physically, okay? So leadership calling sometimes invite misunderstanding. So a lot of us, God called us to do a thing, but because we don't understand it, we act off our own personal experiences or our own personal ways, what we think it should be. And that's what causes us to do what? Make wrong decisions. So she could have did that because leadership calling sometimes invite misunderstanding, but she didn't. And cause obedience to become isolating, right? It can cause you to be isolated because obedience to be isolated, that's what happens when we don't understand something. We just shut down. We go into hiding, and the reason why we go into hiding is because we don't know, okay, God, what is it that you need from me? And that's the wrong thing. As a leader, I'm telling you right now, when God called you to do a thing and you don't understand a thing, you don't shut down. You keep moving because he's going to give you instructions as you go. You can't get the instruction if you go into hiding and isolate. Isolation is not a good thing. I know everybody say isolate. God's going to isolate you. God will never isolate you. And I don't believe that to be so. He will never isolate you because isolation means loneliness. If he keep you isolated, then you can't do his works. But what he will do is allow you to be present, but disconnect you from the nonsense that's going on around you, meaning that your emotions are disconnected from it. You see what's going on, you're in this world, but you're not of this world. So change the way you think, right? And that's why I tell people, because then it won't be so hard. So do it that way. So let's get into the teaching point. So leadership often begins with surrender. The yes. The yes. Surrender is a leadership strength, not a weakness. One of the most defining moments in Mary's stories occurs when the angel Gabriel delivers an unexpected message. He comes to her and let her know she has been chosen to carry the Son of God. He told her that. Now, let me explain something to you. If anybody outside of someone that you're familiar with come to you and said you won't even believe it. The people around you definitely won't believe, but we'll get into that, how she handled that with grace. So this moment introduced a leadership principle that is foundational throughout scripture, and that is leadership often begins with surrender before you understand. That's what it means. So Mary's response in Luke 138 is simple, but it's very powerful. It's very simple but powerful. It says, I am the Lord's servant, Mary answered. May your word to me be fulfilled. That was it. That's it. Because she understands that this has nothing to do with me. And that's why I tell people, don't fight what's happening to you. What's happening to you is not what you're going through in life is not happening to you. You're doing God's work. Nothing has anything to do with you. Yes, these people are saying things to you. These people are tearing you down. These people are making you feel a type of way, but it has nothing to do with you. It's everything about the spirit that's in you. And God is using you as a vessel to get whatever it is he needs to get done. So in that statement, Mary demonstrated what most scholars would often call the radical obedience. Radical obedience. Listen, she accepted an assignment that was drastically change her life before she understands the full journey ahead. She accepted the assignment and did not know how it was going to affect. Now she can only imagine because, of course, they can stone me. I'm not married. What if Joseph gonna think? What's such a time for God to come to me in the moment of, I'm not married. I'm supposed to be getting married and I'm pregnant before I'm married. Oh man, right? But trust. So, from cultural perspective, Mary's decision carried significant risk, as we talked about in the first century of Jewish society. An unmarried woman found to be pregnant could face shame, embarrassment, being stoned, severely punishment, stoned to death. But accepting God's calling meant stepping into uncertainty and potential misunderstanding. Yet Mary does not argue. She don't negotiate. She doesn't get in her own understanding. Instead, she embraces her role with humility and trust. Now, because she believed in God, because she had that faith, can you imagine what that felt like for her? For her. I ain't talking about you, because you gonna run. But for her, he chose me. Like, yeah, all this stuff can happen to me, but I know my God is not going to let anything happen to me. Baby, I'm carrying baby Jesus. I'm carrying the Son of God. He chose me. So, do you think she really can't? Like Joseph, if Joseph said, I'm not marrying you, Joseph, do you understand what's in my belly? You ain't got to marry me. That's a your loss. But we don't know what it went. But in those times, the belief was so strong, the faith was so strong, much stronger than it is today. So yeah, she didn't argue or negotiate. She just accepted that challenge. And in that challenge, she went ahead and had the baby. So the Greek word translate as servant, and in that passage that we just talked about is called doule, which refers to someone who willingly places themselves in service of another. Doule, okay? So Mary's statement reflects her willingness to align her life with God's plan. I'm sorry. Yeah, her willingness to align her life with God's plan, even when the path ahead is unclear. So, this teaches an important leadership truth that many callings begin with surrender before, or rather than the actual strategy. So, modern leadership culture often emphasizes control, planning, and certainty. But biblical leadership frequently begins when someone is willing to say yes to God before all the details are known. How many of us have done that? God tells us to do a thing, we don't know what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen, right? In our laws, we know what can happen, but because we have the faith of God, okay, God, you want me to do this? Okay, I'll do that. Me, I left my job. Okay, God, you want me to, okay, it's time. All right, I'm out. I don't know what's ahead in the next month. I don't know if the house I bought will, something will happen. I don't know what will be with the vehicle. I don't know what's about to happen, but I have to trust. He wouldn't have came to me unless I was ready. He had been preparing me all this time by making the workforce work my nerves. And then he had been preparing me, and then he knew that I was ready to trust. So Mary's example reminds us that leadership rooted in faith requires trust. So let's look at it. Let's break it down this way and close this one out. Is that let me get back to my spot where I was. Okay. Leaders often encounter moments when they feel a strong sense of direction or purpose, but they lack complete clarity about the outcome. So those moments requires your courage and your trust. Saying yes to a calling does not mean we understand every step. When God called you to a thing, when he called you into stepping into your purpose, you may not know what's next. You may not even feel comfortable, but you trust God. And in trusting God, you'll go ahead and step into it. So it means we trust the one who is leading us, the one, the capital O, which is God himself, right? Capital G. That's who it is. One. When we trust the one who is leading us. Many great leaders in the scriptures began with their journey the same way. So let's break down some of the people in the scripture. I forgot to turn this on. So let's talk about it. I have the lights on. Sorry, y'all. So we got Abraham. What about Abraham? He left his homeland without knowing where he was going. That was Abraham. And then you got Moses. Moses accepted a mission he initially felt unqualified for. And then who we got? Esther stepped into a dangerous role to save her people. So marriage leadership reminds us that the first step in leadership is often surrender. Okay? So I want to ask you this. And this is something that you can journal, or you can have table talk with, with your friends, and you can just have an open conversation. But this is just something. Has there ever been a moment when you sensed God calling you towards something, but the uncertainty made you hesitant? Has there ever been a time? I just want you to reflect on that. So let's get number two. Number two is true leadership carries responsibility, not just recognition. So leaders carry vision before others understand it. When God tells you to do a thing like Mary, the angel said you're going to carry the Son of God. Now, Mary can't go to anybody and tell them that because they won't understand it. Let me tell you how that will happen. They'll say, Mary, so God chose you. He didn't choose the prettiest girl over there. He didn't choose the woman that light the candles every morning at the synagogue. He didn't choose this person that's always over there. He didn't choose the one that's always out there feeding the hungry. He chose you. Right. Right? Because man always comes up with who is the best of the best. Are you the best of the best? Then I'm going to choose you. No. Man does that. God don't. He choose the ones that man say is unqualified. Just like we just said with Moses. He choose the one that he feel. Listen, I don't care if that woman go. See, God knows and sees all things. He's omnipresent and he's everything. So he already know and he can see everything that's going on. So he already know the woman that light the candles. Hey, she might be doing everything else that we can't see with our physical eyes, but God can see. But Mary was perfect without blemish for him. So she can carry his son. So that's what I need you to understand. Leaders carry vision before others understand it. Everybody ain't going to understand what God got for you because they feel it should go a certain type of way. So another important leadership lesson from Mary's story is that leadership is not simply about recognition. It is about responsibility, right? She had to be She is the most responsible for the most important thing ever created, ever made. She was responsible for that. It was more important than creating the world itself. And that's what I need people to understand. You got to look very deep into it. Yes, she carried Jesus, but the depths of it, how important that mission was for God to choose her to carry the Savior. I'm trying to tell y'all. So let's look at it. Being chosen by God did not make Mary's life easier, though. When God chooses you to do a thing, it doesn't make your life easier. Sometimes it makes it hard. It's just like, God, why me? Why? I was just living a peaceful life. I wasn't bothering the ones that we sit in the back. We don't like to be bothered. We the ones that sit in the back. We stay quiet. You know, we don't want to be bothered when God calls us. Now we up front. Now we know who our real haters are. Now when we speak, people just saying things, you know, they come, they troll you on your social media. Even with me, I have to put, when I'm teaching, I have to cut the comments off just so I won't be distracted from delivering the message, right? So I have to deliver the message, but look, I have to go through all the things that I don't want to go through. I don't bother anybody. I stay to myself. I don't go out. I don't hang out with any and everybody. I'm at my business, but when God calls you, it's time for you to step up. So, no, your life won't be easier. But it won't be hard either. Your life won't be hard either. See, the thing is, a lot of people think when they, start following God that they have to go through this hurtful stage of, losing everything, drama, mess. And, it's like, man, do I really want to go through all that? And it's not that it's not that your life don't get easier or it's harder. It's just that you kind of like shift timelines. I'm going to put it that way. Meaning that you're no more low vibrational. So a low vibrational person will look at it and say, that's just too much. My life has gotten harder since I follow God. But a higher vibrational person understands that no, my life is easier that I'm following God because it has nothing to do with me. The way I used to get upset when people come against me, I used to get so upset because I felt I took it personal. Now I understand that nothing that you got going on or coming attacks towards me has anything to do with me. It has everything to do with God's mission, his purpose for me to do whatever you need me to do, need him to do. You know what I mean? Whatever he need me to do is what I'm trying to say. So it's not, God did not make Mary's life easier. In fact, it placed a significant responsibility on her shoulders. That's a lot of weight. You carrying the Son of Man. That's a lot of weight, right? She was entrusted with nurturing, protecting, and raising a child who will become the Savior of the world. That was Mary. Baby. Mary's leadership role, what it required was emotional resilience, faith under pressure, and patience and endurance. That's what it required. So throughout the Gospels, we see Mary experiencing different moments. I couldn't get that out. Moments of confusion, concern, and reflection. We see that throughout the Bible. In Luke 2:19, we witness extraordinary events surrounding Jesus' birth. So we seen that. Scripture tells us that Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. She never spoke out. She never said anything crazy. She never said, beat herself up. She never did any of those things. She kept it to herself. Any doubts that she had, she kept it to herself. So that suggests that deep reflection and spiritual contemplations, those are things that happen. So Mary demonstrated that leadership involves what? Processing experiences, processing experiences thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. So processing experiences thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. That's what her leadership trait demonstrated, right? So her leadership also included seasons of quiet strength, where she just stayed quiet. She supported Jesus throughout his life, from his birth to his ministry and ultimately to the cross. Can you imagine that? That she know what she was carrying. When she birthed it into this world, even when everything was coming up against him, she knew it had to. She knew that she couldn't interfere. She couldn't go and protect because he had a job to do. She didn't understand his job. She didn't know his job. She didn't know, really the intent of it, but she understood that he was something special. So to know that and knowing that she had to react, but she had to support him in all his decisions. She had to support him. So not only was she chosen to carry the Son of God, but she was a mother. So that was her son. Yes, God, you blessed me with him. This is your son, but I'm his mother. So the emotional attachments to that she had to check. She had to step into leadership, because she had to step away. You can never lead off your emotions. She had to always remember that this is God's son. I was just a vessel to get him here. So I have to keep my emotions checked. But can you imagine her all the way to the cross? All the way to the cross with her baby. Her baby. Like, yes, she understood how he got here, but that's her baby. So, that kind of got me thinking, just to being a mom. So in John 19:25, Mary stands near the cross during Jesus' crucifixion, right? This moment reveals outside of hurt of being a mother. This moment reveals outside of being a mother, it shows her leadership trait, that depth of her courage and devotion. Her courage and devotion outside of being a mother. Now put the mother to the side. She had to step into leadership and show courage and devotion. Still, even though she's seeing her child, right? So leadership often includes moments of honor and celebration, but it also includes seasons of hardship, endurance, and sacrifices. So Mary's story reminds us that leadership assignments come with real responsibilities. Yes, it does. So many people desire leadership positions because of the influence. They desire because recognition. They desire because of authority that may come with it. That's what they desire. But effective leaders understand that leadership requires stewardship. They don't want that part. They don't want to hear that part. They don't want the responsibilities of it all. They just want the recognition, the influence, and authority of it. They don't want the stewardship of it. Stewardship means caring for the responsibilities for people, opportunities, and that's entrusted in us as leaders. So, no. So, Mary leadership shows us that being chosen by God does not remove challenges, it often increases them. However, those challenges also develop strength, wisdom, and maturity. So, what I want you to journal is, when you think about leadership, do you focus more on the recognition or the responsibility? That's what I want you to ask yourself. So, the next one is, leaders carry purpose even through misunderstanding. Leaders carry purpose even through misunderstanding. So one of the most overlooked aspects of Mary's story is the reality that she carries divine purpose And even when others did not understand her, she still stayed in purpose. See, it's a difference. When God called you, you have your purpose and your passion. She did not step into passion, which is self. She didn't step into self and say, I don't know if this is for me. She stayed in purpose, which is of God. How can you help others? How can you serve others? That's purpose. She stayed in that even when others did not understand her. Accepting her calling meant that Mary would likely face judgment from the people around her. Many would not believe her explanation. They would look at her like she's crazy about this conception. Like, yeah, so you telling me you just woke up pregnant? Oh, okay. God chose you and not chose sister such and such that's been a humanitarian for the whole country. You know. So Joseph, but the thing with Joseph didn't understand it either. Joseph was like, hold on, he struggled to understand, and Joseph was like, wait a minute, you want me? What? How do you think that made him feel as a man? Right? How do you think that made him feel? It wasn't until the angel came back to him in Matthew 1:20 when it came to him in a dream and told him, appeared to him in the dream and told him. That's when he was like, all right, cool. So he had to stand by his woman. So this reveals another leadership truth about Mary. Leaders sometimes carry assignment that others cannot immediately comprehend. And you got to be okay with that. When God called you into purpose and you step into your leadership position, you have to be okay that there are people that's going to doubt you, that's going to talk about you, that's going to drag your name through the mud, that's going to come up against you in every way. You have to be okay with that. You have to continue to stay in faith and purpose. So throughout the history, many individuals who were called to lead experienced misunderstanding or criticism. That's why the Bible is a testimony, but you have a testimony too. Mary had to remain confident in her calling, even when others might question her character or decision. She had to remain confident. This required deep inner strength and trust in God. You have to be listen, you got to know how to, you just got to know that you got to know that you got to know. You got to trust God. That, okay, God, this is you. You called me. This is what it is. And you got to stand firm in it. You guys, thank y'all for the likes. Thank y'all for the likes. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe. This is every Sunday. I teach a leadership class on the women in the Bible. Every other Monday, I teach the power within leadership. And that is usually at 7 o'clock. I go live with that. So check out my playlist. I got a bunch of leadership courses on there. So throughout all that, Mary remained confident in her calling, and even when others questioned her character or decision. So this required, as we said, deeper inner strength and trust in God. Now, Mary's ability to remain faithful despite misunderstanding reflections, this reflects the concept of faithful endurance. That's what it reflects. So leadership scholars sometimes describe this as an internal validation rather than an external validation. Mary did not rely on public approval to sustain her commitment. Her confidence came from knowing that God has spoken to her. She know who he is, she know his voice, and she understands him because she walks with him. So we got to look at it in Hebrews 11 describes many individuals. It has many individuals who lived by faith even when the outcome of their obedience was not immediately visible. Mary's story reflects the same principle. Faith allows leaders to remain steady even when circumstances are uncertain. So that was her leadership trait. So in modern leadership, people may sometimes question decisions, misunderstanding intentions, either purposely or unpurposely, I don't know, or resist new directions. Some people just want to be a butthole, and then some people just don't understand. But leaders who rely solely on approval may struggle in those situations. But leaders who are anchored in purpose, remember purposes of God, can continue moving forward with wisdom and grace. The people who struggle are the people that's in passion. Now, the difference between passion and purpose, you have to remember purpose is how can you serve others? That's of God, right? Passion is self. I'm passionate about this. How can I? It's about self. How can you serve yourself? So that's why you'll struggle in times like that. You'll look for others to help you understand. You'll look for others' conversations of opinions. You'll look for that. But when you're grounded in purpose, you already know you can't talk to other people. Your only friend in that moment when God give you a mission and a task is him. He is your only friend, and your only friend that you can lean on to get to the next step or whatever, get through that mission or task that he has set aside for you. So that's what I need you to understand. So Mary's example teaches us that leadership often requires emotional resilience and spiritual conviction. So when leaders are confident in their calling, when you are confident in your calling, you can remain calm even when others do not fully understand your journey. I'm so calm with every decision that I make. I'm not the type of person that's still like, when things happen, like, okay, well, let me call my mom, let me call my brother, let me call my friend, let me ask this question, if God tell me to do it, he is the only one that I say, okay, God. And sometimes I have to ask him, like, okay, God, if this is you, because what you asking me to do is kind of out of this world. But if this is you, I ask that you show me a sign. And I have this thing that I have with God that I just know that I know that I know. This little keyword type of thing, or I know that it's from him. I ask him to show me and he shows me. So I want to ask you this. Have you ever felt misunderstood while trying to follow what you believe was right or was the right path? Have you ever? I have. We've all experienced it. So we're going to do a recap of everything that we just learned about today. So Mary's story shows us that leadership begins with surrender. It begins with surrender, grows through responsibility, and requires courage, even in seasons of misunderstanding. As we move into our RPI reflection, I want you to think about the areas of your life where God may be inviting you to trust him more deeply. So RPI, excuse me. For the ones that don't know, RPI is the 5 pillars of the foundation of the Trinity of Fitness Bootcamp. The Trinity of Fitness Bootcamp is the spiritual, mental, and the physical, where I teach you how to heal self-awareness, self-acknowledgement, how you can become the better version of yourself. Now, the 5 pillars of the RPI is the checks and balances of you. And everything that you do and every decision or whatever it is in your life that you're going through, you checks and balance with the RPI. The RPI is to acknowledge, release, practice, inner explore, and empower. So the first thing we're going to learn is to acknowledge the fear of the unknown. The fear of the unknown. If God gave you a task or he positioned you for something or you have something going on and you don't know, you have to acknowledge that, okay, I have a fear of the unknown, but you have to challenge it by taking it back to God and moving anyway. You have to move anyway, right? Knowing that God is going to guide your next step. Release. You have to release the need for control and approval. You got to get away from that. And then I want you to practice saying yes to God daily. And then inner explore. Where am I resisting surrender? And empower. I trust God with my assignment. Now, I do declarations over here. I do not do affirmations. Affirmations is people that just say a bunch of things over and over and they don't even believe it to be so. I declare it to be so and it is so. So I trust God even when I don't understand. Repeat after me. I trust God even when I don't understand. I carry purpose with humility and strength. So your quote for the week is surrender births destiny. And then your homework assignment for this week is I want you to journal, what has God asked me to carry? That's what I want you to journal. And then I want you to meditate. I just want you to sit in quiet, trusting. That's what I want you to meditate on. So that's the end of this class. Next week, next Sunday, we will do class 5, which is Martha and Mary, leadership, balance, and priority. So we'll talk about that. If you missed this, this will be posted under the playlist, Coach Nye Leadership Lounge. It will be posted there, and classes 1 through 3 will be there as well, so you can catch up on the different leadership in the women of the Bible. So I enjoyed you guys. If you haven't subscribed, go subscribe. Hit the notification bell when you see me go live. Next Sunday, it will be class 5, Martha and Mary, and then that Monday will be the Power Within series. I do every other Monday a Power Within leadership course. So I really enjoyed you guys, and if you missed it, just look at the replay. It'll be under my playlist, Coach Nye Leadership Lounge. Coach Nye out.